What do you have to say in defense of your boss?
Well, let me put on record that, first of all, that we recognize the contributions of the elder statesman to the development of our democracy in time past. We also, we also recognize his age. 96 years is not a joke, and we thank God for that age. And so to that extent, I didn't come here to join issues with him. Neither do we have any cause to undermine the respect we have for him on account of the path he has chosen in recent time. But let me also place on record that the issues he has canvassed are not original to him. And because they are not original to him, in a number of areas he progressed in error. And as we advance this conversation, I'll put it out one by one for you to know that those issues are not original to him. Let's start from the issue of a premium trust bank. It's not premium bank. If they were to be original to him, he would know the original bank name of the bank. Premium Trust Bank does not in any way belong to Okowa. In Delta State, the state under the leadership of Governor Okowa operates 3 distinct accounts. The FAC account, which takes remittances from the federal government on account of the federation account and other remittances, is resident or domiciled in this Zenith Bank. And it's still there. Nobody moved it to Premium Trust Bank. If it were to be a bank belonging to the governor, you would expect what will happen to boost the fortunes of the bank. The second account is called the FAC, the local government, state local government joint account, which is the JAC account. That account is resident in the UBA, and that UBA is not called Premium Trust Bank. And of course, you know the owners of UBA. The third account is the internally generated revenue sources account, where the funds we generate from internal sources. That is resident in Sterling Bank. The Premium Trust Bank is owned by individuals who have had a very good stay in the banking industry. And by the way, to also prove that the views he expressed are not original to him, the name of the MD of Premium Trust Bank is Ifeanyi. He's not even from the same local government with Governor Okowa. The man is from a place called Abavu in Eka South local government area. The last time I checked and up to this morning, Governor Okowa is from Eka Northeast. They are not related in any way. He also talked about Mr Okowa. Mr Okowa is a banker who has been in the banking industry for more than 2 decades. He started from the old Oceanic Bank and then progressed until even before the bank became an Eco Bank. He progressed to Zenith Bank, where he rose to the level of becoming a branch manager in one of the biggest branches in Asaba. And when this new bank came on stream, just like you saw people moving from Wema Bank, Afribank and others to UBA and the rest, he also moved to Premium Trust Bank. I needed to lay this foundation for you to know that indeed, that the views expressed by the elder statesman are not original to him. Now let me leave the issue of the bank, because the bank they are doing their own business, and we believe that they are doing it in line with the banking principles. And so it doesn't belong in any way to Governor Okowa. Now, he talked about the issue of 13% derivation, and he started by saying that the governor of Rivers State was the one who made public the fact that there were funds to be remitted to the states on account of shortfalls in the 13% derivation. That is not true. In the first place, at what time did Wike make it known that money was given to them? That was after Delta State government, under the leadership of Governor Okowa, had approached the State Assembly to seek for what we call discounted loan based on what was supposed to be coming in. And up to today, what the federal government said is that they will not be in a position to remit the entire money at once, and that they will pay instrumentally for a period of 5 years. And when we went to the State Assembly and we publicized it in line with our transparency principle, and perhaps the governor of Rivers State, knowing that people will ask questions, now came and say, I thank you, Buhari, for giving me all the money. My senior brother, Ruben, at what time did anybody report in this country that Buhari doted out 200 billion and give to one state? Is it too small that the federal government will give you over 200 billion and the federal government will keep quiet? Is it the federal government that is borrowing money to be able to support its own services that will take 200 billion and give to you? What happened in the case of Rivers, I beg to digress just a minute, is that as soon as the federal government, it was reconciled that certain funds need to go back to oil-producing states. Rivers State, even without following laid down principles of going to the State Assembly and having it approved, first of all, at the State Executive Council, approached Access Bank and discounted that loan to the tune of 30% to the bank, and then the bank was able to give them all the money, not coming from the federal government. But we said no, that another administration is coming, that we cannot give all our money, we cannot just go and discount all our money and ignore the next administration that will come after us. That even if we needed to deal with a whole number of projects, which we listed in the course of approaching the House of Assembly. And when we did then, it was well publicized, because initially we wanted 150 billion of that amount. Of course, remember I said discount loan, because it's coming on the strength of what we were receive from the federal government. There were a lot of issues because, of course, we are very public. And we tarried a while. In the course of doing that and many other things, we have some other accruals, both from internally generated sources and, of course, through the Federation account. And it became necessary that time was also running out. We now had to prune down from 150 to 100. And he said the loan was to be given to run from Zenith Bank. That why did we move it out of Zenith Bank? The first approval we got from the State Assembly following these processes was with respect to 150. You cannot use the approval for 150 to go and obtain 100. And when we needed to make the adjustment, Zenith Bank possibly was not in a position to flow properly. And then we needed to have another approval from the State Assembly so that it becomes something that you can have documents. And we listed the different projects that we needed to deal with. And when he made mention of 13%, you know what 13% talked about with respect, if you look at section 162, particularly sub 2 of the Nigerian Constitution. It's a derivation from any source, not even only oil, and to oil producing states, not to just producing communities. Otherwise, we will progress to where you now say that the money belongs to oil producing compound, because it's not even in oil producing communities that everywhere is made up of oil. There are places where you drill it. So individuals who own that spot will say, no, it is oil producing compound, if we want to follow the principle of the elder statesman. Okay,
Mr. Niago, just to bring us back in terms of what he said, what he had mentioned, and let me just ask some very direct questions. Number one, how much the Delta State government received from the federal government in terms of derivation fund? Just give us the amount. He said it's up to 1 trillion naira. Did the Delta State government receive that sum of money? Then the second part is that on investigation, there wasn't anything tangible or commensurate to the amount of money that was received. The only thing you talked about was paying of pensioners, which was 5 billion naira, and that's just a drop in the ocean when you look at the total amount that was supposed to have been collected in terms of derivation fund. So I'd like you to clear the air. How much the Delta State government received, and what did the government do with the amount of money? I mean, you talked about the loans, but what projects, what things did you do? Then going to the, to the oil-producing compound and so on, what he had said was that, as been proposed previously, 50% was proposed to have gone to these communities, oil-producing communities. What's your take on your response to these statements that he made?
Well, thank you very much, Ayo. If you listen to him, he was talking about even from 2007, in which case he was also including the administration of the predecessor of Governor Okowa, Dr. Emmanuel Okowa. I don't want to go into an administration that was not part of. He was also wrong to claim that it was 300 billion, it was 1 trillion that came in.
He said 1.7.
Yes, as an administration, for the period of 8 years, we received, in terms of funds that came from Federation account, of course, you know that even the derivation, all of them flew from that process. In terms of our internally generated revenue, for that period, we generated about 500 and a little fraction billion. And then we got as much as 2.1 trillion that came in. I'm talking about generally now, all the funds that came in. And in all these funds, we had our budget year in, year out, stating what we needed to do. And of course, you know that we also have a body, a setup which is called the SOPADEC, for the purpose of addressing certain challenges in oil-producing communities. You should know that the development and the governance of a state is not only restricted to just some few infrastructure. The people who live in oil-producing communities are not restricted to oil-producing communities. They also travel. They are part of the people who also work in the main government of a state. If not, why are we just getting even 13%? Why don't the oil-producing states or communities say that every money you are getting from oil must go to them, in which case you don't need to even give those when indeed we belong to a federation called Nigeria. So when you also bring it down to the level of the states, you discover that when you have your 13% derivation, some individuals and the likes of our elder statesmen would want you to say, because this money is coming on account of oil that is drilled in point A or point B, that you should take the whole money and give to them, as if we are going to have two governments. There's only one government. And the people who live in these oil communities are part of that government. They are part of the workers in the civil service of that government. The roads that you construct, even communities that are not oil producing, are also plied by people who also from these oil producing communities. The peace, which is the number one thing that we brought to bear. And if you look at the provision of the Nigerian Constitution, section 14, subsection 2, paragraph B, you will discover that first of all, paramount, the security and the welfare of the people is the primary purpose of government. And that we have done. What were we in Delta before? We were about number 4 in oil production. What did Okowa do for us to go to number 1? He brought peace. And how did he bring peace? By ensuring that we take development to these oil-bearing communities and indeed across the length and breadth of 25 local government area. You asked about what and what did we do? We did not only pay pension. We only gave grant. The one he was talking about was a grant we gave to local government pensioners. That even if they are not part of the employees of the state government, because they are from Delta, we needed to also address their plight, and we brought out 5 billion and said, please, use it to mitigate the effect of the pension arrears. We listed the many projects, even at the time we approached the bank for the discount loan. Before that time, there are a number of projects, and I can list just a few because I know we don't have all the time. You covered when we commissioned the Okowa floating market, the only of such in the whole of Africa. Market decreased because we believe that to whom much is given, much is expected. The people in the crease contributed and we took it to them. Our elder statesman is from Burutu local government area. You need to go to Burutu town. The administration of Governor Okowa paved all the roads without exception in the whole of Burutu town, and that is in the heart of the ocean. But Edwin Clark is from a place called Kiabodo, which is the capital of Burutu local government area. Today, we are building a technical school that could pass for a university in Kiabodo, in addition to other internal roads. You get to Okerenkoko, we have paved the internal roads in Okerenkoko. We defied that issue of saying that building in the creeks is a no-go area. We did that, and when you hear that there is so much peace in Delta, unlike what you are used to, it was not because we consulted a native doctor to make everybody to calm down. It was because we took away the projects from the pipeline, which was the reason why the pipes were very attractive in the past. And we put those projects on the ground. And when the people started seeing the projects, and they say it means government can work, and they give us their cooperation. And so that is the reason why we moved to number 1, because we got the peace. And that peace has been sustained on account of the milestones recorded by the administration of Governor Okowa.
Okay, can I come in? Let's get specific numbers.
Yes.
How much was given to the SOPADEC last year, a year before last? Maybe let's get numbers for the last 4 years. Every single year. That's number 1. How much was given to?
In the course of our administration, we are giving to the SOPADEC over 208 billion.
It's over 208 billion.
Yes.
You're giving to the SOPADEC in 8 years, right?
Yes.
In 8 years.
Yes.
That's number 1. Number 2, I also want to get, details and facts as regards this project. And you brought a paper here. I think you can open it up. Let's see the handover finance notes. I also want to get details and facts of how much, has been spent on this specific projects you talked about. Because what they keep saying in other parts of Delta is that the projects are nucleated to where the governor is from. That they don't do other things. The governor
is not from Ogedimigun, where we have the floating market.
That they don't do other things for other areas. That's the sentiment in town. So please, I want you to give us facts based on that, the breakdown by breakdown projects that were done and how much they cost, for all of these deployments and all of that. So please read out the details for us.
I will give you the details. I just wish you have all the time.
No, just read it out.
The issue, before I go to even issue of reading out all the details that you're asking for.
Yes.
Let me tell you that even when you say we should mention the projects one by one, the number of projects executed by Governor Okowa is not what I can list, even a whole day one by one. If you go to, for instance, issue of roads, issue of roads, we have built about 2,000 kilometers of roads. scattered across the 25 local
And can you
government
make
areas.
this available so that we'll publish afterwards?
Yes,
Like
I will give you whatever facts you need about what we have done.
Yes.
In the 8 years of our administration, year by year, we listed the budgets that we had, and then what we expended. For instance, let me start from the issue of IGR.
Yeah.
At the time we came in, we were having something in the region of 53 billion as IGR. We have grown it to the level of 79 billion. We did not grow it by overtaxing our people. We grew it by expanding the tax net.
But your debt is still high in Delta State.
No. It depends on what debt you are talking about.
Yeah.
If you look at the debt you are talking about, you'll be able to distinguish contractual agreement because we have a whole lot of projects.
Yeah, but your debt is still well over 200 billion based on.
No, then if you calculate also what the federal government is owing us, then you discount it and you discover that we are just next in FCT in terms of sustainability.
But people are saying, why that high debt?
No, I'm telling you, because we have projects.
Okay, go ahead.
The debt you are talking about is contractual, largely.
Go ahead with that data.
Now, the data I'm going to give you, it has to do with what we have put together.
No, the budget.
Yes, this particular one is on the issue of IGR. Yeah. I have already mentioned, so I don't need to begin to stay with the IGR. Yeah. I'll give you what we have received from federation accounts in the course of this period we are talking about. In 2015, we received 81.9 billion. When you total everything that we received, like I told you earlier, from 2015 to March 2023, it came to 1.8 trillion, which was what I told you earlier.
Okay.
From the federation account, which includes certain accruals and certain refunds. From Paris Club refund, we got 98 billion.
Okay.
From budget support facility, and why are we getting budget support facility? The World Bank introduced a program called SIFTAS, which is State Transparency, Fiscal Accountability and Responsibility Project. And they said because we made different DLIs mean direct line indicators, disbursement indicators, that because we did very well, we got over, from the World Bank, close to 20 billion naira. Because they believe that we have done
so everything really is
close to 17 billion.
Yeah.
Yes. Now when you plus it to the 500 and something billion that I told you earlier that we have been able to drive our internally generated revenue in the course of 8 years, you will discover how we got to the amount I mentioned earlier. And in doing that, in terms of projects, we have spent about 2.6 trillion, including the ones that you are calling debts. Out of this amount, you are now having a difference of about 200 and something. That 200 and something falls into that threshold. You remember, I talked about the 240. He said the federal government gave us 250 billion. That's not true. Federal government was owing us 240 billion, not given to us. And federal government says, we will give you this money in a period of 5 years because it's not something we can pay back at once. And when we came back, we said, because the money was losing value in terms of the inflationary trend, and that we have a lot of projects we needed to fast track, let us approach a bank to have a discount loan so that at the end of the day, bank, can you give us 150 billion? This is what the central bank will be giving to us. So central bank, instead of not give to us, they will not give to you. While we are now leaving as much as about 80 billion for the next administration. The difference between that becomes what you call the interest that may accrue on account of that discount. But the elder statesman is counting it because the federal government says they are owing us. It means the money is in our hands.
So
the money
what's your debt now?
Our debt is in the neighborhood of 264.
264
yes,
billion.
including foreign.
Okay, including
and
foreign.
And of course, remember I said, in large portion of it is contractual.
So you took over 2 trillion in 8 years. Your debt is over 264 billion. And
the debt
you did project
first of all, because we have a lot of projects. If you come to data, for instance, you mentioned something a while ago, and I need to correct it. It is not true that the projects are located in the governor's town. That is not true. I mentioned Ogedimigu, the floating market. I mentioned internal roads in Ukrenko. I mentioned internal roads in Brutu. I mentioned even what's it called, Coca bridges, and many others.
Because of time,
it's across the state.
I would like to have this document, if you can.
As we begin to wrap up. Right. Okay, you guys are out. Oberowori is there now. But when Chief Edwin Clark was on this program, he kept insisting that he knew what he was talking about. And maybe it's on the strength of that that he has petitioned the EFCC. Are you telling us that the old man is a liar?
I'm not saying he's a liar.
No.
I'm only saying that those facts are not, those issues are not original to him.
No. Are they not the same thing? You are saying that the 96-year-old statesman was lying. That's more or less what you are saying. That's number one. Number two, there's this person who has sent a message. He says, Dr. Abati, please, ignore whatever our brother Charles Aniagu is going to say on your program now to defend his Oga, former Governor Okowa. I beg you and your Arise News team to come over to Delta State, starting from Warri, and see for yourselves the sad facts on ground. It hurts me every time I see Charles Aniagu come on various media stations to present what is the opposite of the sad reality in my Delta State. This is another person, not Chief Ifeanyi Clark, saying that the reality in Delta State is a sad one. What do you have to say? Briefly.
Well, in the case of the elder statesman, he progressed in error. So I wouldn't know whether that means lying, but I said he progressed in error. The issues he puts across are not original to him. In the course of the election, he had his own candidates. In the state election, we defeated that candidate. Perhaps the anger of his candidate losing is still possibly part of what is fueling his opposition. And whoever it is that's my brother that sent this to you, I will actually agree that you come to Delta. When you come to Delta, you will see the difference that Governor Okowa has been able to make in terms of infrastructure. Now, very quickly, he also talked about the issue of betrayal with respect to the political setting. And he said that in Asaba, governors met and agreed that the presidency will come to the south. That was not true. You need to go and Google it. When governors convert on Asaba, they discussed the issue of open grazing. It was in Lagos that governors, and at that time it was not even part of the agenda, it was an addendum introduced by the governor of Ondo State, where they talked about the issue of whether they would like. And don't forget, you are talking about people from different political parties. And so when our elder statesman claimed that they came to Asaba and that we deceived them, it is not true. You knew what happened with respect to how the PDP threw their ticket open. And so we plead with the elder statesman, the respect we have for him, we are not going to be in a hurry to withdraw it. If not for his age, I can bet you that my principal would have been in a position to proceed to court. But when you drag a 96-year-old person to court in Africa where there's a whole lot of sentiments, the public will turn it and begin to say, why are you fighting an old man? But we plead with him to leave those persons who are giving him these stories that are at variance with reality. The development in Delta is what we are very, very proud of. It's not about what I'm saying on TV. We would wish that any one of you across the length and breadth of this country could come and see facts on ground. And you begin to wonder, how did Governor Okowa even manage to put all those projects on ground? Anytime, any day, we will be ready to face anybody physically, that is to come, not just to talk on TV. We will show you project point by point, whether it's the state secretariat, which is #1 in the country, or whether it's the different bridges we are built, or the technical schools, colleges we are built. We are the only state in this country that established 3 universities in one fell swoop. And not only that we built 3 universities, we are funding them. We are the only state in this country where even when every other state university was on strike,
well,
our higher institutions never went that way.
Clark said one of those universities was built in Okowa's village.
University of Delta, Abo.
I went to Okowa build it in his village.
Abo is in Eka South. Okowa is from Eka Northeast. So he said those things, and because that's why I'm telling that these issues are not original to him. He said the MD of Premium Trust Bank is from Okowa's village. They are not even from the same local government. And I told you the issue of Mr Okowa is talking about somebody who has been in the banking sector for more than 2 decades and was even already a branch manager in a very big bank in Zenith Bank. So the elder statesman will want to urge him that whenever other persons who have political issues come to him to paint these pictures, that it will be very wonderful for him to cross-check.
Okay, Charles Aniago, you've had your right of reply to Chief Edwin Clark on matters arising